Hi, friends. Pej here with Primary Purpose with Pej, also Pej Interventions. Today I have a very special friend, Lynn Murphy. She has a book signing going on here in San Clemente, California, and I decided to come down and actually interview her for a little bit and talk to her about her new book. So the book, as you can see, the sign is back here. It is called Stop the Empty Search. And Lynn, welcome.
Thank you.
Actually,
Nice to be here.
You welcoming me because I'm here at your book signing. It's a very special occasion. I know that your book's been out for a little while now, correct?
Yeah, we actually published the last week in December.
Okay. And we've all been very excited for this. Now, in regards to your book, I know that it says memoir,
Yes.
and it's not about recovery or anything like that. These are, you go ahead and tell us about it. What have you compiled in this book? Like, what is this book all about?
Great question. So the book came to me as a result of me recognizing, coming to an awareness that for most of my life, I've been searching for meaning through people, places, and things. And I began to see that it was an empty search, with making my parents my higher power, my children my higher power, my ex-husband my higher power, my career as a teacher my higher power, codependency, alcohol, church as a higher power.
These are all chapters of the book.
Correct.
Which was very interesting to see that. I saw that codependency is one of the chapters of the book.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I had a long journey with that, and it still continues. As we say, I never graduated, but I'm in the process of learning, And so I began to realize, wow, this search has just been going on and on my whole life. And I came home from a meeting one night and I was realizing that I had done this my whole life until I finally came to the truth for me, which is that God is my higher power. And so I began to just finally feel some freedom in that and was motivated to write.
Well, I find it very interesting, especially in the beginning where you talk about parents and how when we're growing up in that family system amongst our parents, they're kind of our higher power because we're learning everything from them. Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but then at some point we have to transfer.
Sure.
Right? And I had a hard time doing that. I think that for most all of my life, my book will be clear in showing the reader that I sought approval. I sought love from any way I could find it through some of those titles and those chapters.
And then so it being a memoir, is this your personal memoir or did you compile?
Great question. So it's actually a personal memoir.
Okay.
And I want to say that I initiated this book because as I would share at meetings, my story, people would come up to me and say, you have to write about this. Like, you have to tell your story. And I realized that I would make a far bigger impact on more people if I told my story in writing and get published.
Okay. And I want to get into the codependency aspect. So what is codependency to you? What do you know it as? Is it a learned behavior? Was it in your family system? Were you codependent?
Great. Yes, I was totally what I would call a flaming codependent.
Okay.
Yes. And it really started out with one of my children and my oldest daughter. I was extremely codependent with her, seeking emotional connection from her, approval from her, primarily because I was not getting that from my primary love relationship, which was my ex-husband at the time.
And do you think that this was passed down, like perhaps from your mom or dad to you two, the codependency?
I can't say that I saw that with my mom and dad.
No?
No.
Okay.
But for me, as a young girl, I grew up in a bit unusual fashion in that my right eye is artificial. And so in order to compensate for that loss, I overachieved in, lots of areas. But primarily, I wanted to achieve your acceptance and your approval and your love. So I would put people in front of my own needs.
Do you feel that you've overcome codependency? And is it freeing to a certain extent if you have?
I think that I have overcome a great deal of it because I understand it. So when it rises its ugly head in my life,
which it always does in all of our lives.
Right. Then I'm like, oh, what am I doing here? And then I pay attention. So the blinders have been open, so to speak, regarding my codependency.
Sure.
And I wrestle with it, but not nearly like I used to because now I have tools from the program.
And you can identify it.
Absolutely.
You know it's when it's there. Yeah. I like that you said when it rears its ugly, because it does.
True.
Now, as far as writing this book and people telling you to write it, are you a writer? Were you a writer before? Did you like to journal? Who is Lynn Murphy? What do you do?
So I was actually an economics and business major.
Okay.
And then I found my way into homeschooling,
Mm-hmm.
and English turned out to be this passion that I had. And so I went back to school
Yeah.
to get my credential in English
Okay.
for secondary education,
Okay.
and found my way into a private school and then a public school as a teacher. And then I went further and earned my master's degree in education. And because I teach English,
Oh, wow.
I found my love. My absolute passion was to teach English, and my primary focus with my students is writing.
Oh, I love that. So when you went back to school, I would imagine that you probably took some creative writing courses and things like that.
I did, but I am primarily self-taught because my bachelor's degree was in economics and business.
Okay.
So when I went back to school for my master's, it was on education, not English.
Okay.
So I have been self-taught because I love to read. And I think that great writers are because they are great readers.
Sure. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I went back to school myself, taking some composition classes, creative writing classes, which I'm actually taking right now.
Awesome.
I love the fact that you're now teaching English. What kind of English are you teaching?
So I teach juniors, accelerated juniors English in high school, and I teach college prep seniors also English. And I've been doing that for, 20 years, will be coming 20 years this fall.
Okay. Now that your book has been out for a while and it's been recognized, because there's a lot of people that have been writing a lot of things about it as far as what they've read, how does that make you feel that you finally were actually able to accomplish what other people encouraged you to do, and then you going and putting it out there? How does it make you feel to see that it's being well received?
It's like an incredible gift to me, because when I was sitting at my computer in the process of writing, my goal was that it would make an impact for people. Writers write for two reasons: impact and income. Mine was impact. And so when I hear people say, when I read that chapter, or when I read that line, or I saw that phrase, I so identified with that.
Sure.
So I can see that the work that I put into this is starting to pay dividends. And my only hope is that it reaches every single person that needs to read it.
I love that. How long did it take you to write the book?
It's a great question. I think the book has been in me for about 5 years, but when I really hunkered down,
Yeah.
I would say 2.
And when you got into writing, did you along the way have any kind of writer's block, or was it just a steady flow?
Many times,
Okay.
many times.
And why do you think that happened?
I think it takes an incredible amount of discipline and drive. And for me, almost like a divine obedience to the task.
Sure. And do you believe that throughout the time of writing, a lot of it came more from intellect, from experience, or from the heart, or all together?
It's a combination of all those things. When I would write a chapter, I was really asking God, like, show me how I need to tell this story with accuracy and in such a way that I would be talking with a person across the room for me. Like, I'd be having a conversation with them over coffee. I wanted it to be very comfortable for the reader. On the other hand, I'm skilled in literary devices
Yes.
and teaching English as an art. And so I also would go through it and make sure that those things that were important to me, that I love reading about, similes and metaphors and
Sure.
great imagery and description and dialogue, that those tools also would come forth. So it was a combination of all of that.
Okay. Are you a perfectionist?
Absolutely.
Do you feel that your final product of your book was perfectly divinely put out the way you wanted it to be?
Yes, I do, but I don't think it's perfect. I still look at it sometimes and I think I'm amazed. And at the same time, I'll look at something and think, oh, I should have changed that, or I could fix that. And that was probably
That's part of perfectionism.
100%.
Yeah.
But that was part of why it took me 2 years, because I would write a chapter and then I would go back and revise and revise and revise. And finally, I read something from one of my favorite authors, Anne Lamott, and she said, you have to just keep your butt in the chair. And that was really what I would say to myself.
Go with it.
Just keep going. Just keep going.
Some of the chapters of your book, I mean, there's the very first one is titles, then there's parents and sisters, then wife, then parenting, then the codependent, my favorite, then men, career, and in parentheses, teacher, and alcohol, substance abuse in parentheses, and then remarriage, church, and then the higher power.
Yes.
Very well put together. I like your table of contents a lot. Do you think that you will be writing more books?
It's my heart's desire to continue to write.
Okay, good. And we need to hear more from you.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Do your students read your book?
This is a great ask. I have told them, yes, that I am a writer and I'm a published author. I think it gives me credibility with them. And so the other day, I introduced a new novel that I'm going to be teaching my students, and one of them raised their hand and they said, "When are we going to read your book, Mrs. Murphy?" And I said, "That's so lovely that you would ask. But the truth is, it has to be school district approved. So we won't be reading my book in class."
But do they know, have they gone and searched your book out just so that they could try to read it?
To my understanding, they have. Yeah. I mean,
As they should,
oh,
especially being in a class like that. And the teacher is, has a published book.
right, right. I'm not sure the content is completely, accessible to them yet,
Right.
but I think that it will be.
Okay. And today, the people that will be coming to support you are friends or just anybody and everybody? Do you know who's coming?
Of course. Yes. I think really everyone who's coming tonight has played a part in my life in some way. If it wasn't through support, it was through, even maybe through my husband. So
Yeah.
he knows that he's told about the book. Most of them have read the book. If not, they're curious about knowing about it because we just, got started with the publishing and the distribution of it. But in some fashion, they know me.
Well, here's the deal. As far as what I know of you, I met you probably a decade ago through your husband at an event that we were at. And over the years that I have seen you and gotten to know you better, what I know of you is that you're a beautiful soul, a great lady who helps many, many, many. And I mean, and not just in our recovery circles, and not just in teaching circles, but I would imagine that there are a lot of people that get a lot out of you because you're such a great woman. And I believe when I heard that you wrote a book, it didn't come as a surprise. I thought to myself, okay, I've heard her in meetings and the way she speaks. I can only imagine that whatever she put into this book was her blood, sweat, tears, all of it, Along the way, when you were writing your book, did you feel a lot of emotions?
So much. And parts of it are painful to tell.
Right.
And I remember pausing at my computer and just, closing my eyes and saying to God, help me to be authentic and genuine and accurate without being a victim.
Right.
And I really think that I stuck to that. I really think that I was true to that.
And how often do you read your own book now?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
I understand. I get that.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Well, this has been wonderful. It's been so good to interview you, and I'm really, really proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. Great accomplishment. I think it's wonderful that you have so much support and people that are coming out today for the book signing. I do want you to know that besides this little interview that we're doing, I do want to have you come on my podcast so we can go deeper into who Lynn Murphy is on a more deeper level.
Yes.
It will be very soon. I'm going to get you into the summer, and I really appreciate you just inviting me out to come and film you. And it's been great interviewing you. You're such an awesome lady.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure. And I want to thank you for have the exposure because my heart is that many, many people would read it and it would help them and it would change their lives because it's a very long search and it can be very empty for many people. And that was my experience, so
I love it.
Incredibly grateful.
So remember, as you can see the sign behind me, here's the book. It is Stop the Empty Search, a memoir. Come Face to Face with the Real Higher Power by Lynn K. Murphy. And you can get this book. Where can they get this?
They can get this book on Amazon. Very easy. And my ask would be that when you finish reading that you would leave a review on Amazon so I can get those algorithms up and more people will get to it.
Please leave reviews. She will need them. We need to get this book out there so everybody can see it and hear from your experience and what you've written. And also, do you have a website or anything like that?
I do. It's in the back of the book. And so there's that too.
All right. So that's how people could contact you if they want
Absolutely.
to possibly do more interviews and things.
I would love that.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right. Well, over and out. Thank you for having me come.